I want to do a little video with weight, and people want to know, can my truck tow this, or do I need to upgrade? So currently we have a 2022 Surveyor 19 MD BLE. It is a single axle trailer. The weight is, as you can see, 4,044 pounds as it came out of the factory. They claim the cargo to be, here we go, 809 pounds, and also the GVWR of 4870. So there's a couple things that I want to go over. First and foremost is weight. There's a lot of different weights out there and a lot of weights that you need to know. Everything from what your truck is capable of towing, which is usually a pretty high amount, to the gross combined vehicle weight rating, which is also typically pretty high. Most times you are limited by payload of your tow vehicle. In my case, and again, this is in the sill of the truck, my payload is 1,477 pounds for a GMC Canyon crew cab V6. That's a pretty good amount. I have seen some F-150s that are limited at 1650, 1670. So to go to a half ton truck, you get a lot more towing capacity, but you don't necessarily get a lot more payload capacity. So, one of the limiting factors is once you put weight onto the tongue of the truck, or from the tongue of the trailer onto the back of the truck, that weight gets put into your payload. So you have all of your passengers. So we'll go to my little calculator. So you have all of your passenger weight and then cargo weight minus your hitch weight. So some of these numbers are pretty accurate, as we'll see later, and some of them are a little bit of a guess. Again, it's important to know what we're talking about. We are talking about gross vehicle weight rating of my pickup truck is 6,000 pounds. So the combined weight of the entire vehicle. So knowing that if the GVWR, so the 6,000 pounds minus my 1477 puts my curb weight roughly at 4,523 pounds. So that is, and we can go back and forth. To be perfectly exact and super scientific, this is really just a ballpark. Whether General Motors considers your weight with a full tank of gas, with a half a tank of gas, with no gas, with 150-pound person driving, or without. Some of that, obviously makes a difference, because fuel in a tank, in a 21-gallon tank, which is what I have, is going to add a considerable amount of weight, or take a considerable amount of weight off. Hopefully, as we'll see in a little bit here, amounts, that I've got enough leeway that won't make much of a difference. So we've got those. Now the trailer weight. So we've got the dry weight of the trailer as it's manufactured, and then we've got, this one is the one I want. So it has one 4,400-pound axle. So that will also come into play here as far as weight. GVWR of the trailer, again, 4870. So that gives me 830 pounds. It says 809, but somewhere in there, pounds of cargo carrying capacity. So all of that is in play here on the calculator. So to look at the curb weight, the GVWR 6,000, which is supplied by General Motors, the combined vehicle weight rating. So if the entire truck and the entire trailer cannot weigh over 12,000 pounds, when you put them together, my payload is 1477. And then, as you can see here, payload is passengers, cargo, and hitch weight of the tow vehicle, which I will see later go with a rough estimate of 12%, which seems like a pretty good number. And then my towing capacity, so according to General Motors, my truck is able to tow 7,000 pounds. I did a lot of research before buying anything, and one of the things that I kept seeing over and over again was, obviously don't max out. It's not about necessarily driving down the highway, but it's about starting. And more importantly, it's about stopping. So I went with some numbers over here. I wanted to stay somewhere in between 10 and 15% reduction off of this max weight rating. So a 15% reduction would mean 10,200 pounds, as well as a trailer that maxed out at 5,950. So there were a couple trailers that we looked at that were dry weight of right around 5,200 pounds. So, in my calculations, that would have given us 500 or so pounds of cargo, and I figured that was going to push things a little bit too high. And as we'll see here in a little bit, after we went to the scales, that was in fact the case. So, again, as we go down the list here, rough estimate passengers 600, cargo 300. Again, I did the hitch weight at 584 pounds, which was 12% of the GVWR. So that would be basically, if we maxed the trailer out, 12% of that weight on the tongue would put 584 pounds on the truck, which the calculations here will put me 7 pounds over on payload. So 6,700 pounds. The combined vehicle weight rating, which, as I said earlier, I wanted to stay under 10,200 pounds. That puts me at 10,293. And again, that's if I'm maxed out at the 4870. As you'll see here, let me pull up the actual tow slip, or the weight slip rather. So axle 1 is going to be the front axle of my Canyon, rear axle of the Canyon at 3220, and axle 3 is going to be the trailer at 4180. So again, single axle trailer, but axle 3 4180. So that puts me at a total of 10,300. If we go back, according to my calculations, 10,293. So that's why I feel that this 584 number, this 12%, is pretty accurate. So if we look at actual tow, I am at 6,120 pounds. So I'm 120 pounds over my GVWR for the truck. What comes into play is my trailer is only at 4180. So we'll round up, we'll say 4,200. If I shift that 120 pounds back, that puts me at 4320. And if we look at the axle rating, as I had mentioned before, the axle rating for the trailer is 4,400 pounds. So I feel like the trip that we just made, where all these weights were from, if I'm able to take some weight out of the bed of the truck. So in this scenario, in the bed of the truck, I had 2 bikes, I had 2 inflatable paddle boards, an inflatable kayak, and some fishing equipment. So if I take those inflatable units and move them from the bed of the truck into the trailer, which I easily could have done, that should do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to even out my front and rear axles weight to about, hopefully, a little under 3,000 and then just a little over 3,000 pounds. So, by shifting 120 pounds out of the bed of the truck and into the trailer, I'm going to get my payload under the 1477, get my truck GVWR under 6,000 pounds, or right at 6,000 pounds if I'm being specific. So it will even out the weight ratio between the front and rear axle of the truck. I'll put my trailer probably at about the maximum weight that I would possibly want it at. And again, the total will stay the same. That it's just moving it from the front to the back, from the bed of the truck to the trailer itself, which has a little bit more towing capacity than what I used. So ideally, I might be a little bit over. Like I said, I was shooting for 15%, which would be 10,200, and I'm somewhere in that 10,300 mark. So 100 pounds is pretty good going into this thing. When this was some of my estimates before we even picked up a trailer. Now, knowing what the weights were, steered our shopping obviously to something that had a dry weight in the 4,000 pound category, thinking that we would have roughly 800 pounds of cargo would put me at a weight that I was comfortable towing with the truck that I have, with the midsize GMC Canyon. So on this trip, as I think I mentioned in another video, on this trip we had the two bikes that were in the truck, the two inflatable kayaks, an inflatable one inflatable single person kayak, two inflatable paddle boards. There was some fishing equipment, rods, reels. There were life jackets. I feel like there was a couple other things, as well as two adults, two kids, a cooler full of drinks and food for the ride home. All that in the front, plus what's going to be on the hitch, which is a Fastway E2 weight distribution hitch, a single battery, and a single propane tank that, just for safe guess, would be half full. It's been on, I think, 3 camping trips at this point. So I'm not 100% sure what the weight of that propane tank is. And then everything that we have in the pass-through is probably going to get loaded onto the hitch as well. So, there's definitely some weight distribution that we can do within the trailer. I do feel, even though numbers-wise we are, I guess, maxed out, everything is under. It's completely safe the way that we have it set up. Or if once we were to shift, 100 or so pounds out of the truck and into the trailer, I feel like it's a 100% capable vehicle. I feel that it is very well matched. The size of the trailer at 23 feet 7 inches. It is a narrow body camper, so towing it behind a midsize vehicle is a perfect setup. Towing experience so far. In the scenarios where I'm off of the highway, getting gas, stopping for snacks, whatever kind of break we took, or even in this specific instance where we got off of I-85 in Anderson, South Carolina, to do this weigh-in at a QT, and then to get back on 85, Interstate 85, where it was, I believe, 65 miles an hour. That has been the only spot where I've really felt underpowered, was when accelerating from 35, 45 miles an hour on a ramp to try and quickly get up to highway speed at 60 or 65 miles an hour in order to merge. That has been the only real test where I felt like I could use 2 more cylinders or a little bit more power than what I had. I have not been in a scenario where I felt like I was undersized and getting blown around on the highway. I never have had a situation where I didn't feel like I could stop the trailer in an appropriate amount of time. The towing experience, there's definitely a difference for me with the gas-powered 3.6 liter V6. The experience towing at highway speed, the difference between trying to maintain 65 miles an hour and 60 miles an hour is night and day. It handles the trailer very well at 60 miles an hour. Small accelerations, if you dip to 55 to get back to 60, or 60 to 61 going down a hill, it handles it very well. The issues are if you're trying to maintain 65 miles an hour. The rating on the tires that are presently on the trailer are rated for 65 miles an hour. So that's the fastest that I'm even considering going. But that's the one spot where I feel like the learning curve is for me so far, is trying to, figure out how to maximize gas mileage and towing experience, and keeping the truck, I guess, in a more comfortable range. Staying in that 2,000 to 3,000 RPM range instead of living at 4 to 4,500 RPM range. Any slight hills on the interstate, trying to maintain 65 is much more difficult than towing at 60 miles an hour. It's just way more comfortable at 60. So far on 3 or 4 trips now, I have gotten right around 12 miles per gallon. And as far as I'm concerned, with the vehicle that I have, that's excellent. I'm not upset with the gas mileage at all. You absolutely know it's back there. But again, I don't ever feel like I'm underpowered or under duress, with the exception of, I think, the 2 or 3 times trying to get back onto the interstate. But other than that, can you tow a trailer with a mid-sized truck? Absolutely. The weights, the numbers plotted out that you 100% can. My experience is that this is the perfect setup and scenario for a mid-sized truck. It's a single axle bunkhouse. Again, curb weight's 4,044 pounds, maxed out at 4,870. I really feel like this is a great combination, and 100% you can tow it. Now, that being said, I'm also looking into upgrading, not from a power and towing experience standpoint, but cab space. As my kids get bigger, they are now 13 and 9. The cab area has gotten a lot smaller, it feels. So I'm definitely in the market to upgrade to a half ton. But again, it's not from a power standpoint. It's not from a towing capability standpoint with this trailer. It's really from a, for lack of a better term, a square footage. 2 adults, and again, the 13 and 9-year-old. The space inside the cab has gotten smaller. This last trip we had a Yeti cooler, soft-sided cooler with drinks and snacks for the 2-hour ride home, 2.5-hour ride home. Basically sat in between the front and back, so that, because we didn't have any room anywhere else to put it. My wife had some stuff in the footwell, in the passenger seat. Both kids have tablets and headphones and whatever in the back, maybe a pillow or a blanket, and we are out of room from a cargo cab area standpoint. So, there's always the possibility that we upgrade. But if you're looking at this and if you're perhaps a couple and not a family of 4, and you want to know if your present vehicle is capable of towing, again, my numbers are 7,000 pound towing capacity, GVWR on the truck 6,000 pounds, combined weight of 12,000. So, if you're in a Ford Ranger, Jeep Gladiator, if equipped properly, Jeep Grand Cherokee, Canyon, Colorado, Definitely feel Tacoma, probably Frontier, those mid-sized trucks with that roughly 6,500, 7,000 pound towing capacity. I definitely feel like this is a good towing experience for you. If you have any other questions specific to the weights or anything that I went over, feel free to drop a comment below. If you get a chance, like and subscribe. We'd greatly appreciate it.